Well, hello everybody, and welcome back down to the shop. Hope everybody had a good holiday, and glad to see you. We're going to get back in the swing of doing some videos here. Weather's kind of rough and kind of cold every now and then, but we're still fishing and think we can bring you some good information. Appreciate you subscribing to the channel. If this is your first time on here with me, welcome to you. We just sit around the shop and talk fishing. That's what this channel is all about. Nothing fancy, no frills, and what you see is what you get. Ain't nothing real fancy about it, and we just like to sit around the shop and talk some fishing. I hope that's what you're here for. Today, what we're going to talk about with the weather turning off cold the way it is and raining, and it's just rough fishing. You know, some days are really good, and other days it's hard to be out there on the water. But I'm going to tell you today, one of the best places that you can look for fish in the wintertime. I fish them constantly. Wintertime, I'm going to the bluffs. That's where I like to fish in the wintertime, is the bluffs. Now, not all bluffs not all bluffs are created equal, you might say. There's certain bluffs that you can run across and use your electronics, and it'd be just desolate. You go across another one and look at the conditions and look at where they're at, and they'll be loaded with fish, and there's a reason why. If you can find a bluff that's on the outside swing of a good deep river channel, a good deep creek channel, got a good sheer bluff, that the corner of it is coming into a creek or a big cove or anything like that, where the fish have come out, in the fall after they've been back in the back chasing bait and everything, fattening up for the winter. Like myself, I like to fatten up for the winter. But anyway, they're going to come out and they're going to go to the nearest deep water that they can find. They're not going to go far, and it depends on, it could be in a river, it could be, like I said, in a big creek. They're going to go and they're going to find the deepest place that they can get to, because in the wintertime, the bass don't really travel a lot forward, okay? They're like the rest of us. They like to hunker down and stay warm, but they will travel up and they will travel down. It's just their nature, in the wintertime to do that. Most of the time, they're down on the very bottom of those bluffs that you can find. Now, I've found around here in Tennessee, the best bluffs, like I said, are coming off of a creek channel, on a river bend, on a creek bend that's got about 20 to 30 feet of water. You can look any deeper than that, but most of the time you're not going to see them any deeper than that. They'll only go down so far, and that way they don't have a problem with traveling, going up and down on that river bluff. Now, I'm going to show you just a few of my baits that I like to fish in the wintertime on those bluffs. Like I said, not all bluffs are created equal. That's a given. You can have some bluffs that have a kind of a longer, little bit of a taper to them, that steps down, and if you got water that they drop the water in the wintertime, what you see above the water line and it's stepping down, that's the way it is under the water all the way to the bottom. Guarantee it is. If you got a straight up and down bluff that might have some rocks that stick out on it, that'll go back under and make a little depression under the water, those are good also. But not all are created equal, and you have to fish them in the way that they dictate. Okay, you can't just go out there and flip a jig or jerk bait or whatever, because that bluff, those fish, especially if the water gets dirty or if it gets really stained, they'll get up close to that bluff as they can get. What I normally throw and I'll show you my regular flipping rod, 7'6" Falcon, medium heavy. I'll throw that on just a little bit of lighter line. Instead of 20 pounds, I'll drop that down to about 17 to 15 pounds. I'll drop that down. And my favorite thing to do on those bluffs is a jig. Now, I don't throw a big flapping pincher jig where it just flaps and goes down. I'll throw that little small zoom. That's a little small zoom chunk in brown. I stay with brown during the winter time. And what I'll do, I'll throw that jig right up against that bluff at the top. Throw it up there, leaving slack in my reel. That way it'll come down and it'll stop on that first little ledge. And you can see it with your line, you can feel it, and I'll just pull off just enough that it'll fall down to the next one. Same way, it'll fall down to the next one and stop, and I'll work that down. I let it set now. I don't just drop it, let it full, then drop it again. You bring it down and let it set, then go to the next one, let it set all the way to the bottom. And whenever it hits the bottom, do not move it. That's a key to it. Don't move it. Just let it sit there, because it's going to be moving with the currents that's in the water anyway. It's going to be moving with the currents. So when you do move it, you don't want to move it far. You might drag it 6 inches or something. Let it set. You got to let it set and let them come up there to it, because they're coming down. They're looking at it. They're inspecting this a lot more than in the summertime when you're flipping and it's falling past a tree limb or something like that, and it's drawing that reaction strike. Now they're going to be looking at this, okay? But when you get it down off those ledges of that bluff, stop it and let it set. That's probably my favorite way to fish, as it is anyway, is through a jig. That's probably my favorite way. Hang on a minute. My chair is sliding down. Let me raise it back up. I told you wasn't nothing fancy about this channel. Nothing fancy about this one. Okay, my second one. Now, whenever that water gets kind of dirty, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go to more of a finesse presentation, as in a spinning rod. I like to use a spinning rod, doing the same thing, but I downsize that to a quarter to a 3/8 little small jig, and most of the time I'll use a black. You can see how this one is. It's a little small crawl on it that's not got very much movement. Very same thing. I'm going to drop that down. Now this, when I do this is whenever it's a tough bite. Okay, that's what I'll throw in a finesse situation. It's like that, and like I said, I'll throw it on a Lew's Speed Stick Xfinity. It's stiff. It's medium heavy, and I pair that up with a Fluger spinning reel. But I'll throw that out there, doing the same thing again, slowly letting it fall. When it hits the bottom, let it set, and then drag it. Okay. And my other one, and is to use not a small shaky head, but I'll use a bigger trick worm. Throwing it again on the spinning reel and medium heavy rod, and I'll throw that shaky head, and I'll use a full size trick worm. Okay, I don't throw a little small one. I throw a big one, keeping it in brown, very same way. letting it fall right down next to that bluff, and most of the time you'll get a hit right whenever it hits the bottom. But if it hits the bottom, let it sit and then just barely move it. Don't move it very much, and they'll finally hit it. That I think this worm here is a zoom with the brown and orange swirl. Let me get you a better picture of that. You can kind of see that orange in it, but that's really good too because they think that's a crawl, okay? But anyway, those are my favorite three throwing against the bluff, bluffs in the wintertime. You know, you might catch them luckily out on a real rocky flat or something maybe, but I've not had any luck because I go straight to the bluffs and I fish the bluffs. Even when the shade is on them, they get that low light condition, and they like that. Or if you might find a bluff that's got some riprap on one end of it, again leading into those places where they've been for the fall, those are good spots too, because that riprap will heat up and they will come up there to them, throwing the very same thing what I'm talking here. But a jig, in my opinion, is the best lure in the wintertime for bluff fishing. Hands down, in my opinion. I know a lot of different areas use different lures, but where I'm at, and mostly the people that sees this, a jig is your best bet on these bluffs. Fish them extra slow, and you'll get a bite. They're really subtle because these fish are cold, and they're not going to just boom. They're not just going to hit that jig like they do in the summer. So you gotta be ready, and you gotta really feel what's going on down there. So that's our video for the day. Glad you come by the shop. I'm glad that you stopped for a while for us to talk a bit. I hope that you enjoyed the video and the information. Like I said, if this is your first time seeing us, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that. Thankful for all my subscribers. So we'll see you next time, and come on back down to the shop. We'll talk some more fishing, okay? Thanks a lot.